Leveling up extreme business growth through raising your game. When what was once extraordinary becomes ordinary, you know you've leveled up.
Hello and welcome to the Leveling Up Podcast with me, George Swift. The Leveling Up Podcast is here to give you the personal development, the entrepreneurial development and the business growth that you, the ambitious business owner, desires. I'm here to give you the inspiration, the motivation, but above all else, to challenge your aspirations to take you and your business to the next level. Don't forget, subscribe to this podcast and never miss an episode. And in this episode, we're going to be following on the theme that we're doing all week this week. We did it in the last session, which is we're looking at Kick-Arse Philosophies. It comes straight out of my book, 67 Kick-Arse Philosophies for Small Business Owners. This book achieved #1 spot in 3 categories on Amazon recently, including small business and entrepreneur. Very proud of that. Today, what we're going to do, we are literally going to leave it up to Lady Luck to see what we're going to be discussing today. Without further ado, let's get going. Okay, so we're on page 154, and it's this. Much of consistency is about managing your multiple and conflicting personality traits. This is one of my most favorite topics to get people to understand that they are fundamentally schizophrenic by nature. But here's what the book has to say, and I'll come back to you and we'll discuss it further in just a minute. This may be a relief for you to know there really are multiple personalities inside of you. You're not going mad, you're just like the rest of us. These personalities make themselves known through our thoughts and present themselves through our feelings. These conflicting traits create a battle within us, the outcome of which is reflected in the environments we create around us and our experience we have of life. Long-term success is a measurement of consistency. And if you want to be consistent, you're going to need to take these voices and personalities in hand and get them into a more harmonious balance. This is critical if you're going to consistently bring your best to life and your goals. If you lived every day as the best, most positive version of yourself, both you and your life would transform. That's the opportunity available to you from rebalancing the traits within you. Much of the work we do at BBB Success Groups is about personal growth, and I focus heavily on readdressing this balance. To consistently be the best version of ourselves takes ongoing and consistent effort, but it's worth it. The bottom line is really simple. I truly believe that much of what makes you up as an entrepreneur, much of your personality as it is right now today, is actually congruent with you being very successful. I've yet to find anyone that has nothing apart from losing characteristic traits or negative characteristic traits. What I mean by that is characteristics and personality traits that fundamentally oppose people being successful or happy. The bottom line is really simple. You already have it within you to be a lot more successful than you already are, to perform at a much higher level than you currently do. The problem you have is you have these other conflicting personality traits within you. We touched on this actually on the last episode when we were also doing the randomizer with the 67 Kick-Arse Philosophies book. And we touched on this whole concept that actually there's so much more potential within you than you access on a regular basis. So when you have a moment, a glimpse of how great you could be, we tend to put it down to chance, to luck, to the planets being aligned. Whereas actually the truth is what we're doing is we're getting a glimpse of how we could be, a glimpse of the performance that we could tap into on a more regular basis. And it's that consistency we're talking about here. Ultimately, your success will be reflected based on to the degree that you apply yourself over the timescale that you apply yourself. So in other words, if you bring 50% of what you've got for a year, you're going to get the same outcome as if you applied 25% of what you've got access to for 2 years. But you're only going to get half the amount of someone that brings 100% of what they've got for a year. So what we're going to look at here, we want to look at consistently bringing the best of what we are. And there's so much that's in you right now that is aligned with so much more success than you're currently getting. And our job is to readdress the balance of these conflicting personality traits. It's the athlete that we know is within us, the person within us that wants to stick to our diet regimes, our health regimes, our exercise regimes. And then it's the other part of us that wants to eat pizza and Haagen-Dazs and drink beer and, I don't know, flop in the couch and watch TV all day long. And then there's another part of us that wants to do sales and wants to grow our business. But there's another part of us that's scared of sales and scared of rejection. There's a part of us that wants to be truly successful at something and wants to dedicate our lives to the achievement and fulfillment that we could have if we were to only dedicate ourselves and focus ourselves on something. And there's another part of us that's constantly worried that maybe we're sacrificing too much, or maybe we're paying too high a price, or maybe I'm being a bad person or a greedy person or a bad parent or a bad husband or wife. These conflicting personality traits are what are holding you back. So let's take, for example, that you're someone that has, let's say 60% of everything in you is aligned with huge success, but 40% of what's in you is holding you back. You apply 100% of yourself to only actually move forward 20%, because 40% of all those positive traits are having to counteract the 40% of those negative traits. So you actually make progress, but it's slow progress and it feels like hard work. This is why so often we can feel absolutely exhausted, even though we might not necessarily have achieved that much. It's the equivalent of walking uphill, dragging breeze blocks behind you. If we let go of those breeze blocks and get ourselves onto flat terrain, we'll make much better progress. So let's take someone who's mostly positive and mostly aligned with huge success. So most of their characteristics and their personality traits are aligned with huge success. Let's say 80% of this person is aligned with great success. And only 20% of them is pulling the other way. Only 20% are holding them back. You're still only making the progress of 60%. You're using 100% of what you've got access to. That's assuming you are bringing 100% of what you have access to. So you're bringing 100%, but 20% of that 80% of that positivity, those positive traits, those positive characteristics, those successful traits and characteristics are having to fight and battle with the 20% that are holding you back. So even though you're 80% positive, you think, right, you know what? If someone was 80% focused and 80% motivated and 80% fearless or brave and, and 80% they've got the right mindset, the right attitude, the right personality, they're aligned with great success, you'd expect that person to achieve huge success. Well, I'm telling you now, they're going to do okay, because someone who's 80% aligned with huge success is actually doing pretty well by most people's standards, but they're still not going to make the success that they truly feel they should, because a proportion of those aligned traits for success are in direct conflict to another bunch of characteristics and personality traits that are misaligned with success, and they're having to overcome those before they can even start to move forward. Therefore, it's super important, and I repeat this theme over and over again, not only in the book, but also on these podcast episodes. It's so important that we look at our own personal development. It's so important that we align ourselves for success, that we capitalize on the best of what we are right now, whilst removing the worst of who we are right now. That's not judging it as you being a bad person, but those characteristics and those traits that are misaligned with what it is we're trying to achieve out of life, the experience we want out of life, and what it is we're trying to create and achieve out of life. We want to remove the worst offenders. We want to capitalize on the best of what we are, and then we want to bring in what's missing. So if you look at successful characteristics or a successful personality, you'll realize there are multifacets to that person. Someone that has 100% of themselves aligned with great success is going to achieve, by default, amazing things in life. So what we look at here is saying, right, I possess a decent proportion of those already. However, conflicting with that, my inner conflicts, I have other personality traits that are absolutely opposing that, and they're holding me back. I want to remove as many of those as possible whilst maximizing the use of the best of who I am. And then there's a gap. What's in the gap? What am I missing? What am I lacking? For some people, it could be focus. It could be discipline, creativity. It could be trust in themselves, faith in themselves to deliver what it is they're promising, to be a good boss, to be a good leader. It could be around accounts or finances. It could be around man management, people management. It could be around hiring and firing. It could be around marketing, sales. We want to plug those gaps And the biggest gaps we want to look at are our personality gaps, because we can learn a skill. And as I said in the previous episode, just because we get better at something, nothing's going to change if we don't apply that new skill that we have. And therefore, it's our characteristics and our personality traits that we want to make sure are aligned for success. Because if they're aligned for success, then any new skill we bring in, any personal development that we bring in, any upskilling in terms of our ability to do our job or our ability to run our businesses, that will immediately then transfer into external results. But until we deal with the inner battles, the inner conflicts that we have with ourselves, these personality and characteristics that are holding us back from us being all we could be, then we're just going to have more skills that frustrate us that we're not using. Have a think about these inner conflicts within yourself. Have a look at your own frustrations. Have a look and see that so much of who you already are could be achieving and creating so much more than you currently are. And then look at what's holding you back. Look at these other internal forces, maybe these guilts, these fears, these doubts, these belief systems that you have that probably aren't even your own. They were given to you by other people or by society at large. And have a look at these forces and see how they play against each other, and see how you're battling yourself, you're in conflict with yourself, you're fighting yourself. In the last podcast episode, I talked about Sun Tzu, and he talks about the three enemies. He talks about the enemy, the external enemy, the one that wants to kill you, that wants to beat you and defeat you. He talks about the terrain and the landscape and how you have to conquer that. And he talks about the hardest battle of all being the enemy within. The enemy within is yourself. It's your own inner demons. In this context we're talking about today, these are the personality traits that are conflicting with the personality traits that would otherwise lead you to amazing things. It's the part of you that would absolutely diligently follow through and do everything you need to do in order to become successful, in conflict with the one that doesn't want to work too hard, the one that feels tired, the one that feels guilty. And then what happens is you still move forward as long as the positive traits, as long as the traits that are aligned with success are greater than the characteristics and the personality traits that are misaligned with your success, you will make forward progression. But depending on how much is holding you back will depend on how far you can move forward and how far you can get to and how quickly you can move forward. Because of course, before you can make any progress, you have to counteract those forces, those personality traits and those characteristics within yourself that are holding you back. Have a moment, have a think, have a pause, have a ponder on how that relates to you and what you're going through right now. Let's move on. The next one, where she stops, nobody knows. Success is a long game. Okay, this is another one of my quotes. I say this and I repeat it over and over again, and I don't always go into detail about what I actually mean, but here's what the book has to say. Play the long game. The older I get, the more time starts to compress. When I was 20, a year seemed like a long time. When I was 10, it seemed like an eternity. At that age, the weekend never seemed to come. Christmases seemed eons apart. Yet today, I feel like I've barely put the decorations back in the loft before I'm getting them down again. Summer holidays come and go, as do birthdays. And this new experience of time brings new appreciations with it. The future isn't as far away as you think. Make it count. Instead of thinking in terms of days, weeks, or months at a time, start thinking and seeing increasingly further into the future. There's a truth in the statement that most people overestimate what they can achieve in a year, but hugely underestimate what they can achieve in a decade. Time is a friend and a powerful ally if leveraged properly. The more we can plan ahead and take the appropriate steps today, the more likely we are to have the business and life we want tomorrow. So success is a long game. When you look at anyone that's achieved anything of any true substance, it didn't happen overnight. Behind every overnight success is a decade or 2 decades of hard work. For every actor that seemingly sprung onto our screens as a Hollywood movie star, there's the failures, the flops, the thousands of auditions that they were rejected from. Behind every pop star, there's the gigs that they did in pubs around the country where they had maybe 5, 6, 10 people, and most of them were booing if they were listening and ignoring them if they weren't. Behind every success story, there's hard work. Behind every true successful life, there's time. People that have dedicated themselves over years and over decades in order to achieve that long-term success. Your overall success in life will be a reflection of the degree that you apply yourself over the timescales that you applied it. If you develop the skills and develop the mindset, the personality traits, the characteristics of someone that's willing to play the long game, someone that's willing to consistently invest and invest and invest and reinvest in the future, someone that's willing to make the short-term sacrifices today so that they can create the future of tomorrow that they want. You want to go into yourself and start to really dream big and realize that if you're playing this game for a year, there's only so much you can achieve. But if you're playing this game for a decade, you can achieve exponential amounts. If you're willing to play this game for the rest of your life, then you can achieve unbelievable results. Success is about consistency. We've said this already. Consistently bringing the best you've got, consistently bringing your best game, continually showing up and continually to keep showing up and to never, ever give up. If you condition yourself to consistently bring the best of who you are, not just for a day or a week or a month, but for a year and for 5 years, for a decade, for maybe multiple decades, then you can start to see what you have on offer. Arnold Schwarzenegger used to say, everything comes down to reps. Obviously, famously a bodybuilder first and foremost. Arnold Schwarzenegger said, you know what, all achievement comes down to reps. When he was in the gym, it was just about reps. You got to do enough reps with enough weight. You got to lift enough weight, enough times in order to develop the muscle, to grow the muscle that gets you the ultimate success that you want to have. And he applied that same philosophy to everything in life. It's all about reps. It's all about repetition. It's all about putting the work in, putting the work ethic in. It's all about bringing your best, going through discomfort, pushing yourself further and harder every single day, every single week, every single month, every single year. It's about continually lifting heavier and heavier weights, putting yourself under increasing demands and challenges so that you strengthen and condition yourself to be able to go out there and take yourself and your business to the next level. That quote that I put in the book, I first heard from Tony Robbins. And it's the idea that most people underestimate what they can achieve in a decade, but overestimate what they can achieve in a year. Bruce Lee summarized this when he says, long-term consistency beats short-term intensity. He also said he feared not the man that practiced 10,000 kicks once, but the man that practiced one kick 10,000 times. Consistency is king, and consistency over time is what ultimately creates the degree of success that we have. If you come at the gym and you give it everything you've got for 3 gym sessions, you're probably just going to injure yourself and damage yourself and put yourself off the gym forever. But if you come to the gym frequently and regularly and you push yourself every single time, then you'll be able to come to the gym more frequently. So you might start off with 3 times a week, might be all you've got in you for half an hour. But very quickly, you can do half an hour 5 times a week. Very quickly, you might be able to do an hour 5 times a week. Within that hour, you'll be able to push harder, run faster, run further, lift heavier. And then what happens is you improve and you improve over time. And the more you improve yourself over time, the more you have to apply yourself over time. And then the more consistently you apply that over time, the more successful you will be. It's as simple as that, but damn, it is hard, right? It is hard to consistently keep picking yourself up. It's hard to keep moving forward. It's hard to, keep overcoming the onslaught of challenges that we face as business owners, the economic landscape that we're having to navigate right now, the changes in technology that we have to keep up with, the changes in the market, the industry area that you work in, the trends that keep changing, how you have to keep up, the competition that comes in and threatens to take away your business or to take away your clients. It's the issues, the problems that you have in business, the staff issues. It's your own personal issues that come up, your own personal challenges that we have to continually keep defeating over and over again. It can be really hard to keep bringing a high degree of who we are and what we've got to the table every single day. But fundamentally, that's where you want to get to. Look, if you have one bad day, it's not a problem. You have one bad week in the big scheme of things, it's not a problem. Even if you've had a bad year or two, when you look at the timescale of a lifetime, it really won't have that much of a massive impact on the overall result you've got. But what your job is to continually bounce back as quick as possible, to become resilient so that, one day doesn't become 2 days, or one bad week doesn't become 2 bad weeks. Or even if you've had a really bad year, it doesn't lend itself to becoming another bad year. If you've had a bad decade so far, it's about not taking that bad decade into the next decade. It's about bouncing back, becoming resilient. It's about not allowing yourself to get dragged down for too long so that you come back quickly, swiftly, and start operating at a high level again. When you can consistently bring a high degree of your technical ability, your experience, your positivity, your motivation, your drive, your action taking, when you bring the majority of what you have access to consistently over time, that is how you are ultimately going to win. Nice one, guys. Thank you very much for listening. As always, I truly do appreciate the fact that you give me this time. So many people, so many things out there right now are vying for your time, your energy, your attention. Therefore, I do always appreciate the fact that you've spent this time with me. If you want a copy of 67 Kick-Arse Philosophies for Small Business Owners, it's available on Kindle right now. As I said, it did hit #1 in 3 categories, including small business and entrepreneur. Super proud of that. If you want to get a copy of this, it's available on Amazon Kindle right now. Just go to Amazon and search 67 Kick-Arse Philosophies. You'll find it there. If you want a paperback version, it's available from our website. Go to biggerbrighterbolder.co.uk and you'll find the book there. Also, don't forget the 6-Figure Fast Track webinar masterclass is still available for you. If you're a small business owner and you haven't hit 100K right now and you want to know what's it going to take to hit 100K in the next 12 months or less, then get yourself on the 6-Figure Fast Track, completely free of charge, and it takes you through the 6-figure mindset, 6-figure business model, and the 6-figure methodologies that you need to have in place in order to get yourself to 100K or more in 12 months or less. The rules of success are exactly the same right now as they were just 3-4 months ago before this shitstorm took full effect. The rules of success, the rules of the 6-Figure Fast Track, they're the same in a good economy, a negative economy, and whatever the hell this is that we're going through right now. Get yourself on the 6-Figure Fast Track, biggerbrighterbolder.co.uk/fast track. I'll put all the links in the descriptions of this podcast. I will see you next time. Until then, as always, be successful.
Leveling up. Extreme business growth through raising your game. When what was once extraordinary becomes ordinary, you know you've leveled up.